evening. How you doing? Tonight, I will show you how to model your own grass using Blender's geometry nodes and that sort of stuff, and how to spread them on a surface using vertex weight. So the first thing we're going to do is select all and delete them. Delete everything. Go, put a plane right here. Go to geometry nodes. All right. Now we want to instantiate points on this plane, and those points are going to be our grass blades. So actually, I'm gonna keep this, but I'm not going to use the original mesh. I'm going to use a mesh primitive grid because I can control the size of it right through here. Not X and Y, just like that. Let's go to group. Let's call this size, just size. Okay, good. Let me set these to two vertices so I can have just one face. Now I'm going to distribute points on faces. Good. Might actually want more than that. I might want something like 15 yeah, or 20. Actually, no, let's keep it like that. And let me plug in the density here since we're doing using the input, this input. Now this is looking good. Okay, now I want to stay. Now what is it that's going to be our grass plate? It's going to be a bunch of curved lines. So I'm going to instance on points, curve primitives, curve line, just like this. Instance. Good. Now I want to randomize their height, so I'm going to what's called. I'm going to utilities, random value. Let me set the minimum to 0.5. And just like that, I'm going to put it into the scale. Okay, this is looking good. Let me put the minimum and maximum here. And let's call that maximum height and stuff like that. Good. Now we are going to grab on the X. We're going to add random rotations on the X and the Y axes of these instances. So I'm going to instances, rotate instances, and I'm going to grab on the X. I'm going to make a simple setup to figure out to rotate them between minus 30 degrees and minus 20 degrees or whatever other degrees I want. I want them to rotate like this. If you only set them from 0 degrees to 30 degrees, they're going to rotate like this, and I don't want that. So I'm going to make it like this, minus 30 degrees, minus positive 30 degrees. Good. Let me click W. Good. So I'm going to random value, Shift D, and random value. Okay, I know what to do. Random value. Go to this group input node, put it right here. This is going to be the minimum, and this is going to be the maximum 2, because I want it to be the same on the X and Y, the same positive value and the same negative value and all that stuff. Let me do this. Let me shift right click, grab on the X, grab a bit further. Let's put a math node right here. I'm gonna set it to multiply and set this to -1. So when I set this input, let's call it the rotation range, like this. So so when I put this to 30 degrees, it's going to randomly rotate between minus 30 degrees and positive 30 degrees on the X and the Y. So we now need to set that up. Actually, I think I just done something wrong here. I should have set this to vector. Yeah, I should have set it to vector, and then I'm going to pull out the combine X, Y, Z, Shift D, Y, good. Combine X, Y, Z. The minimum is going to be this. This X and the Y will be the same minimum value, and the X and Y here are going to be the same maximum value, like this. And this is all we have to do to make this happen. The Z rotation is, it doesn't matter because we're going to offset the curves themselves before we add a profile to them. So it doesn't need to have any random rotations on the Z. If you want, you can add like this, tau. You can type in tau. Tau means 0 to 360 degrees. So tau means 360 degrees. Tau is pi multiplied by 2. So pi is 180 degrees. And like that, you can understand what's going on here. Now, this isn't going to be working the way I want it because it's going to be converting floats to radians. I want these floats to be radians right away. So I'm going to to pull out this math node, plug it into here, and then go to radians. So when I put this at zero point 0.5, it is zero point 0.5 degrees. When I set this to 30, it's going to be 30 degrees, as you can see here. As you can see here too, the tau means 360 degrees. So when you set it to radians like that, you can have more predictable results from your rotations and stuff like that. So let me put this right here to rotation. Good. And when we increase that, this increases too. And if you want, you can add the seed of this random value to the input too. So I'm going to call this rotation seed. Good. Now we placed them, rotated them, scaled them randomly to a minimum and maximum value. Now I want to do something just to, in order to explain some things when it comes to vectors and colors and how do they relate to each other. Just for the sake of explanation, nothing else. Like, just so you know. That's all that it is for. So I'm going to put a set position here, and I'm going to use a selection for it. But before the set position, because if you use set position, for instance, is going to place the instances. It's not going to place the geometry. So you need to turn it into geometry through going to instances or a mesh in this matter, through going to instances and use realize instances, just like that. If I pull out the spreadsheet, let's hope you understand through the spreadsheet. You got the spreadsheet. You can see here that we got curves with 30 control points and 15 splines, as you can see here. Now, when I mute this with M, I'm gonna say that now they're all just instances. This whole geometry is just instances. When I bring this back, they're back to being curves. So that's why I'm realizing and afterwards setting the position because I want to set the position of these, the first point of each curve. So how am I going to set the position of each point of each curve? The first point of each curve. I'm going to curve endpoint selection. Where is endpoint selection? Right over here. And set the end size to 0 and the start size to 1. And when I increase this offset, as you can see, only the first points of the curves are moving along. Let me join these areas. Yeah, only the first points of these curves are moving along. But I don't want to set the position to that. I want to make them gradually go to the center because there are grass patches that look like this, and there are grass patches that look like this, small grass patches and stuff like that, like this. So let me Control Z, get rid of all of that. Good. Now I want them to look like the grass patches I just showed you over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use input position, the position of our geometry, and I'm going to color. This is gonna sound a bit weird. Color and mix it with a color black, where the hex is 000. Now let me set this factor to 0. Now, what does it mean when I do this? So it's going to grab the original positions from this position input node and mix them with the 0 position. If I pull out input vector, you see they're all set to 0. Okay, let me set this here, maximum. You're gonna notice that it's the same thing. When you now to explain it in a more clear way, I'm gonna just tell you this. This has RGB. This has XYZ. RGB, XYZ. So you can say that color is also a vector, just like that, as you can see here, which is the simplest way I can explain this to you. I'm just going to delete this now and just set this to something like zero point 0.5. But actually, I don't think I'm going to use this, so I'm going to mute it. My grass patch is looking nice. If I want some outer patches that are where the density is low, I might want to add the patches that look like this or even this. But we're at the moment, no, I don't need that. So I'm going to just mute it and just keep it like that just for the sake of explanation or the sake of sharing knowledge. So now what do we need? We need to displace these curves, as you can see. So I'm going to duplicate this node, go to amp, and then go to texture, noise texture. Now, as you can see, it's not displacing the way you might want them to be. Like you see, only the first 2 points are displacing. Grass usually has more resolution, let's say it, let's call it resolution, has more resolution to it. Like there's this point has displaced on its own, this point too, this point too. So what I'm going to use is a curve resample curve. And let me set it to 5. Now it's looking nice. But the noise texture is displacing the everything in a very weird way, and I don't like how this is being displaced. It's going all over this way. So how am I going to center them around the origin of the geometry? I'm going to vector math, subtract from it zero point 0.5. So I'm going to put it at add and then we'll type in to all of the axes minus zero point 0.5. And as you can see, they're all now at the same spot. And in order to have more control of this texture, I'm going to add a scale node, vector math scale node. And as you can see, this is looking nice. Now you might not want to have the have them going up and down like this, as you can see. Not to be affected, you might not want them to be affected on the z-axis. You might just want them to be affected on the x and y-axis. So the solution to that is very simple. You pull this out, you set it to multiply, you set all of these to 1, but you set the z to 0. And just like that, they're affected on the x and y only. So let me decrease this displacement a bit. Now these are looking fine. Now here's another point. I don't want the beginning points, the starting points of these curves to be affected by the displacement. So I'm going to use this node that you just used earlier and put it in here. Now, as you can see, only the first points are being displaced. Now, that's not what I want. What am I going to do is go to utilities, Boolean math, and set this to not. So what is Boolean math exactly? Boolean math is it deals with zeros and ones. Zero is false, one is true. When you say not zero, that means that zero is one. And when you say not one, that means that one is zero. And vice versa and all that stuff. And when you say that there's a value, when you say that only the first vertices are true, then that means all of the rest are false. You see? So you want to reverse that, you use a not. You use a not. Boolean math, not operation. Thus, this becomes false, and all of these become true. This is way better than following on the count of how many resamples you have, how many points did you resample your curve into. This is way better than that. And this is the best way you can do it. Now, as you can see, the first points are going to stay at their same original position without moving anywhere. This is looking good. Now we need to add to this grass some what's called some profile. So I'm going to curve to mesh. Now in order to explain what the curve to mesh does, I'm going to pull out a curve primitive of type circle. As you can see, there's an option with curve to mesh that says profile curve. So when I put, let me set this to 0.1, 0.01, good. When I put the curved circle into here, you see that the curved circle now envelopes itself all over the curve. Now that's looking good, but this isn't how grass looks. It looks, how to say it? Yeah, it looks a bit like a piece of paper, two-dimensional piece of paper. So we're gonna fix that. We're going to pull another curved line over here and set it here. Now this is not working the way you might want it to. So let me set this to 0. And let me set this to minus 0.025. Remember that the curve line, when you set the start and the end points of it, always make the start either 0 or negative, and the end make it always positive. So I'm going to use the same value that I used with the start, but positive. And this is gonna look in the way we want it to look. So what do we need to do now? I want to have better control of this, so I don't have to set this like that and have set this into a positive value and a negative value and vice versa, and make sure that they're both the same value and all that stuff. So I'm going to pull out a group input node over here. I'm going to pull out a vector, combine x, y, z, shift z, y. Okay, Shift D, I mean not Z. Shift D, duplicate, and then Y to grab it on the Y axis. And then put this right into here. Come on. And this one right into here. Let me shift right click like that. And I'm going to make this one negative value. So I'm going to utilities, math, either subtract it from 0 or multiply it by minus 1. This time I'm going to subtract it by 0. Subtract the 0 by it, I mean. So I'm going to put this one over here and put this one right over here. And I'm going here, just like that. Looking nice, eh? Good. Now, what's left? What's left is that we should make this grass, those grass blades a bit thinner at the top. So what I'm going to use is, what's it called? Yeah, curve, set curve radius, like this. And as you can see, they're gone because the default value for it is 5 millimeters. So as you can see here, there it is. This controls the radius of the entire thing. So let me, now I want it to be thickest at the bottom and fattest and thinnest at the top. So I'm going to curve, spline parameter, and put this factor in here. As you can see, the radius when it when it begins from the start of the curve, it starts at 0 and then goes all the way to 1. This is looking nice, eh? Yeah, but I don't want that. I want to reverse that. I want these points to have the fattest, uh, thinnest parts. So I'm going to utilities, float curve, and reverse this curve like this, and we now have the effect that we want, but they're a bit too thin at the top, so I'm going to pull this up a bit. And yeah, now they're looking nice, and I want them to be a bit less linear. Now this is looking nice. Let me set this to 0.025 because that value looked really nice at the beginning. Okay, let me now make the size of this batch smaller, increase the density of the points. I think that the density of the points is distributed by square meters. I think so. I'm not very much sure about it, but I think it's distributed by this amount, by square meters. But I want something else from the density. I want to manipulate the seed of it. So I'm going to select it in order when I add the plus, I get an input right underneath so I can keep everything organized. So I'm going to underscores, call it seed, and connect it to seed. And I'm going to turn this into an integer value like this. Now this is looking great. Now I can manipulate the seed of the points of how they are distributed randomly. I can keep their amount the way I want, but the way they are distributed, I kinda like the 2 actually. Now 1. Yeah, let's keep it at 1. Looking nice. Let me decrease these. Increase the density. I don't want to. Frankly, I don't want to have a lot of detail to deal with. This is looking nice. Okay. Now this is our patch of grass that we're going to distribute on let me go here to the view layer and call this grass patch. Now we want to spread it on a plane. How we're gonna do that? It's easy, and most of you know how to do it, I bet. But let's say that I want to distribute it using what's it called again? Yeah, a vertex weight. It's that's easy. You can go to you first of all, though you don't have to do this, but I like to do it. You first of all, as you can see, geometry nodes is a modifier. So when you click apply, you're gonna get the mesh that came out of that modifier. This looks nice, right? Good. This is gonna make dealing with it a bit more easier. Now let me hide it. Let me pull out the plane like that, and then scale it up. Let me control the scale through here. Let's say 30. That is good. Control A, apply the scale. Okay, nice. Let's go to geometry nodes. Let's call this grass plane. Good. Now I can see my nodes, so I'm going to click on A and then press on the dot on the numpad so I can center them. The same dot on the numpad that you use to center an object in the viewport. So now I'm going to grab this, grab it all over there, distribute points on faces, and yeah, keep it like that. Why not? Grab on the X, and let me displace it a bit more. I go to... Actually, before displacing it, I need to subdivide it. And also, I need to subdivide it to something like 30 because I want to, as I said, I want this to be, let me subdivide it to something like 40 actually. I want to, what? Yeah, to distribute these instances using the vertex weight. So I'm going to create a new vertex group over here. I'm going to call it grass. You don't have to create a new vertex group, but if you already have one, and you want to do another vertex group that has the weight, you're gonna have to create another vertex group. And when you go to weight paint mode, weight paint like this, you need to have it selected. Now, what the hell happened here? Let's go back to object mode and then go to weight paint. Oh yeah, let me turn this off. Yeah, okay. Now let me draw my name on this, because why not? I'm a guy who's full of himself. Like this, let me adjust the fall off. Good. A bit too small. Okay. Bit too big, but I don't care. Good, good, good. Let me make a big circle. That's a dot. Okay, looking nice. Now we want to distribute these points along these vertices, along this weight. So what are we supposed to do? Like there's no way for me to know how I'm going to, like, you can go here and type weight. You're not going to find anything. Nothing. You're going to find nothing. Okay? So what is it that we need to do? We need to go to this check out the name of the vertex group, go to input, named attribute, and call that attribute. Its name is grass. I don't know why the hell it doesn't give me the other options. Oh yeah, I know why. Okay. Does it give it to me now? Where is it? Yeah, here it is, grass. Because I have it disabled on the viewport. That's why. Now, let's put this right into here, see what happens. As you can see, now they're distributed like that, in this fashion, the way I drew on that. Now, if you're in weight paint mode and you know where and you want to see clearly what you draw, what happens when you draw your instances on this, you can go to geometry. You can actually weight paint right here and distribute your instances like that. But you can go to geometry and join geometry in order to see better and use this, and now you have your mesh in front of you. Let me draw a heart because it's Valentine's Day yesterday it was. Who gives a shit actually? This kind of looks gay, so I'm going to remove it. Alright, nice. So I want to adjust this. I want it to be a bit more denser than that. I'm going to use math, not add, multiply by 2. Good. Now I'm going to instantiate my grass on this grass patch. So I'm going to pull it down over here, keep it on relative position. Let me pull this up. Let me go to object mode. Go to instances, instance on points, and all that stuff. Instance. Good. Looking nice. Here's our grass. It looks a bit samey, let's call it. So what are we gonna do? We're going to utilities, random value, vector again. I want to make the x and y 0, but I want the z to turn around between 0 and 360 degrees. So I'm going to type in tau real quick, just like that. Now they're all randomly rotated, and this is looking kind of nice. Now, I don't want the scale to be a bit samey for all of them, so I'm going to use the uh, the weight paint I just added to manipulate the scale with it. And as you can see, the by the fall off through the fall off of the weight paint brush, you can see that the middle points are the biggest and the furthest points are the smallest, as you can see here. If you want to manipulate the scale or any other aspect of the instances through another weight paint, another vertex group, you can go here, add another group. Let's call it scale group. Scale group, looking nice. And let's start painting up. Actually, let me do something a bit funny here. Put this right here. Put this one right here. Put this one right over here. Yeah, why not? Who cares? Let me scale this up. Go to the Z and do this. Looking nice. Good. Good, good, good. You can actually pick a custom falloffs like this one, which is a circle, like that goes like this and all that stuff. So let's use this group to manipulate to control the scale of these instances. So I'm going to disconnect that, control right click, go to input, named attribute, sorry. And what did I call it? Scale group. Yeah, scale group, put it right here. And as you can see, the same effect that was done by our second group, where the largest was here and the smallest was here and all that stuff. Now, I hope this tutorial helped you a lot through geometry nodes and all that stuff, and helped you to learn a bit more stuff about everything in general that you can use in Blender to instantiate anything on a plane, all that stuff. Now, this is a really rushed tutorial, I gotta be honest with you, because I didn't have much time this past few days, past few weeks actually. Now, I hope all of you have a great time with Blender, and I wish you all a happy blending. See you all.